to the Virtual Fan Zone, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm Larry McReynolds with NASCAR on Fox, and it is my pleasure to introduce the driver of the number 22 Pennzoil Ford Mustang, the 2018 NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano. Joey, how are you doing?
I am doing good here in Charlotte, and a nice day out, and getting ready to head out to Las Vegas for hopefully another good race and another one of these trophies. They set up this background for me. I said, this is very humble. I appreciate it. This is a very humbling background.
Well, I do love the trophies on each side, but we all know that one behind your head, that's the big one, right?
That's the goal. That's what we all shoot for. I'd like to have one of those trophies on each side. That'd be much better.
You got to get a bigger credenza back there, which that'll be
That's fine. If we win the championship, I can afford that. That's what we'll do.
Joey, we've got some questions from some fans, but I do have some that I want to address with you about Las Vegas, about 2020. But one thing that blows my mind, and I've known you since you were probably 5 or 6 years old, but you just turned 30 years old. You've got now 428 Cup Series starts, 25 wins, including that 2015 Daytona 500. 30 years old. This is your 12th full-time season in Cup. So you're almost to retirement, right?
Easy now. I got some time. I still love what I'm doing, and my body still feels good. So I'm going to keep rocking as long as I can, as long as I'm competitive and can go out there to win races. But it is a really unique position for me because, you know, I did start really young, and I went through quite the learning curve that I didn't really expect to have. And obviously all that was with Joe Gibbs Racing. And unfortunately that didn't work out, but I had this crazy, amazing opportunity with Roger Penske and Team Penske and Shell and Pennzoil, and been with them ever since, and really has been what I needed to propel my career to where it is now. And now, like you said, I'm sitting here with 400 and something starts, and you know, I'm only 30 years old. You know, I think I got a long ways to go. And you start thinking, man, maybe we can run down the old Ironman record there, or try to get that one from. I think Jeff has it. I think he just took it from Ricky Rudd not too long ago. So you start thinking, like, I actually can get that possibly. So
because it is all consecutive starts. Well, no, I mean, you ran a few races before you went full time, but most of them are consecutive.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe all but 3. I think are. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. Because I mean, I had 470 starts as a crew chief, but I don't think my first start was till I was 33 years old. So
I got some time ahead of me.
So Joey, this is your 7th playoff appearance. So you know we're already through round 1. We're headed to the Pennzoil 400 or the South Point Hotel and Casino 400 this weekend at Vegas. You've made it to the championship 4 3 times: 2014. 16, 18. I'm seeing a pattern here. I'm seeing a pattern, a distinct pattern. 2020. How about it?
I would love that. That would be great. You just never know. What I've realized with this whole thing is with the playoffs and the way this rounds go, sometimes you just don't know who's going to win the championship until you get to Phoenix, until you get to the last race. You have no idea. I look at 2018, and I remember starting. That was the year we won the championship. I remember before the playoffs started, I was sitting at home talking to my wife, and we just weren't running good at the time. I said, yeah, I think we're lucky if we get to the round of 8. I don't think we're fast enough to do it. And next thing you know, a little bit of speed starts coming. We get to the round of 8. We win in Martinsville. We win in Miami, and this big trophy's behind me.
Yeah,
that one coming. You know, and if I look at a few years before that, where we won 5 or 6 races, and I'm thinking this is our year. We're going to win the championship this year. We didn't even make it to the championship 4. You know, so it's just kind of it's crazy. Anything can happen. You know, for those reasons, I stay confident no matter what the situation is, because I know it changes day by day. You know, and you know, Kevin's on one hell of a run right now, but we've seen, you know, throughout the year that some cars are really fast for a little bit, then they fall off, and then it just cycles back and forth, and you hope you peak at the right time.
Yeah, I think we saw it with you in 18. Quite honestly, we saw it with Kyle Busch last year. He had not won a single race since like Pocono in June. But I think it is, peaking at the right time. You look at this year, you won 2 of the first 4 races, and then we had the break for this pandemic. And when we made the return first part of the summer, it was a little bit tough on you and the 22 team, but then I look at the last 12 races, Joey, 5 top 5s, 10 top 10s. Where do you feel like you guys stack up now with 7 races to go?
I think we're true contenders now. I think we have a shot at it. I think at the beginning of the year, we had practice. Paul Wolf, myself, new to working with each other, new engineers, there was no one that transferred from team to team to really kind of help that communication piece. And when you look at those first few races, how our practices went, we slung a lot of things at that car. It wasn't what I was used to and what I wanted to feel in the car. And we made a lot of adjustments. And once we did that, we were fast and we won a couple races. Well, now we go back racing, no practice, and we're going to tracks for the first time together. And how much of an adjustment does Paul need to make in the beginning of the race? How bad really is it? Brad reacts to smaller adjustments. I react to big changes, like change it, make a big swing at it. And that's different for Paul. Paul got used to, working with Brad. It's a different driver, and he did that for years. So us just getting on the same page, now coming to racetracks for the second time, him kind of knowing me, my reactions, what I mean when I say certain things. And now I feel like our speed is back to where we were in the beginning of the year. Those races we won, we were top 3 to 5 cars, and the scenario of the race played out perfectly. Vegas in the spring, we were a top 5 car. All the cars pitted, we stayed out. We took advantage of that situation. We won the race. Phoenix, we were better than that. Maybe we were definitely a first or second place car, but we had different, strategy with tires. We put ourselves in position. We won the race. So we're back to that spot where we're fast enough that we can take advantage of the opportunity that's there and maybe be the first on a pit cycle of some sort, whatever, and just a different strategy. We can be the first on that. And all it takes is, cautions to fall the right way or one thing to go the right way, and you're back in the victory lane again. So we want to have that dominant speed that you see the 4 have. And I don't think we're far from that, certain racetracks, so I think we're in position that we just can be solid through these next couple rounds, get through it. And then who knows, right? Who knows what can happen? We know we can be fast at Phoenix.
So we're going to take some of these questions from some fans in what Mary Kane is asking. And of course, we know this round here, I think a madman pretty much scheduled the 3 races that we're going to go to right here. But what she wants to know, Joey, of the remaining races, and we have 7 of them, which do you think will be the most challenging track?
Well, challenging and nerve-wracking, or maybe.
I know where you're going.
I'm going to Talladega on this one, because you just don't know. Is it challenging? Yes, in its own ways it is. Nerve-wracking for sure, because you don't know, right? I think of, every time you strap into a super speedway race, and this is just the facts, you have a 50% chance of finishing the race. You just do. There's going to be a wreck at some point. You're either going to barely miss it or you're going to be in it. No matter if you're running first or you're running in the back trying to stay out of the crash. We saw the 4 and Brad and some other cars do that in Daytona, and they still crashed, right? So how do you pick the right strategy going to a super speedway and staying out of that, and especially when your season's on the line? That's what makes Vegas this weekend so important, to get yourself at least a little ahead of the cut line, because it can happen to anybody, right? It can happen to anyone. And our playoff points that we've earned throughout the year are nice and they're decent, but it's not very comforting, that's for sure. And then there's the Roval, which is also a bit of an unknown as well. Maybe not as much, but still there.
One thing that we're going to have this weekend that you didn't have to deal with race number 2 is, I was looking at the forecast earlier this morning. Looks like when this race starts, it's going to be about 100 degrees, probably still in the 90s when the race ends. And so we've actually got a question from Aaron Ensign. How do you stay in shape physically to be a driver at the top of the game and deal with the heat like what you're going to be dealing with this weekend?
Yeah, you really just for me, I train a lot outside and I try to do it at lunchtime, 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon even. It's where I can be in the sun. I want to be in the heat. I want to get used to it, because a good rule of thumb is it's 30 degrees, maybe 40 degrees warmer inside the race car than the outside air temp. That's pretty much what it is, no matter where you're at. So when you say that 100-degree number, it'll be 130 or 140 degrees on a race car. That's hot. I mean, I don't care if it's dry or not in the desert. That's hot. So when I think of that and being ready for it is important. And so to me, training like you need to compete. So in those conditions, and that's a lot of running outside, heart rate constant up. I don't do a lot of bulk lifting. I don't need to. I don't think as a race car driver that's important. You just need to be able to do something for a long time. And you need to be able to focus, in very strenuous conditions.
Yeah, you and me are a lot alike. I'm not buying that. Well, it's a dry heat. 100 degrees is
No
still
way.
100 degrees, and no matter how you shake it. So,
For sure.
Las Vegas Motor Speedway, you've won 2 of the last 3 races there, including that Pennzoil 400 win back in February. But I also looked, you've got 9 consecutive top 10 finishes there. What is it? I know we run a lot of mile-and-a-half tracks, but I always say they're like golf courses. They're all different. What is it about that mile-and-a-half track that suits you?
I think there's a few things. I mean, I remember getting my first top 10 finish there in Vegas, and how what that meant to me, especially at that time in my career, it was huge, right? It was a big deal. And for whatever reason, that track is just really suited my style from there. I think Team Penske in general brings really fast cars. You look at the races here recently. Blaney was fast there. Brad's obviously been fast there with a few wins as well, and obviously us with a few wins. So it's been a good track for Team Penske. So I think when you kind of have a fast car and a driver that really likes the track and kind of has his head wrapped around it, you start to see some success. And it's hard to pinpoint what it is. You know how it is when you're a crew chief. Sometimes you're sitting there like, I don't know why this is our best racetrack.
But I'm glad it is. Wow. So, Joey, we had a lot of fans that kind of addressed this question in different ways. So I kind of phrased it to look at all the questions that came about it. Nothing has been normal since our return, other than we go out there and we race and somebody tries to win the race. But probably the biggest thing is no fans at so many of these tracks, just like this weekend at Las Vegas. I know we're going to have a few fans at Talladega, a few at the Charlotte Roval, but so many tracks we've been racing without fans. How has that been for you as a driver? And the biggest thing I think about, like Las Vegas Motor Speedway, how much they hype up and energize driver introductions, which obviously is not going to happen.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss it so much, Larry. And going to Bristol last weekend and having 30,000 fans there at least, and that's not a lot in comparison to what we're used to at Bristol, but that is a ton of energy. 30,000 people make a lot of noise. As weird as it, you get used to, like, because I remember coming back from Darlington and having nobody there, and you're like, what the heck is this, right? This is not normal. I used to feed off that energy and something that really pumped me up before the race and motivated me, whether you had driver intros and whether they cheer or boo for you, you use it as something to kind of psych you up for the race. And when you roll out there and you hear the cars keep pushing out into the grid and you hear the rocks dinging off the crush panels, it's that quiet. And you're like, this isn't right. So I'm glad to see that we're being aggressive on getting some fans back to the track again at certain racetracks where it is approved, where we can, and feeling that again. I mean, you can just tell the energy last weekend when they're singing a national anthem and, the whole place is cheering and screaming and like happy and just glad to be at the racetrack together. You're going to feed off the energy. Look how excited Kevin Harvick was after he won the race. He wasn't going to be that excited if it was empty grandstands up there, He
was that excited when he won the championship.
Right? So it's just, we're excited to see people again. That's what I say all the time. Like Zoom and all these different, video chats are great, and we're lucky to have this technology. But I want to see people. I just want to see someone again and talk to them and, hang out. And like those things we took for granted so much, and hanging out with your race team. And it's just so different than what we've been used to. And it's the same for everybody, right? Everyone's going through it in their own unique way. But I'm over it.
I think we all are. Joey, I always, as a crew chief, I wanted my driver to give me 100%. No matter what the situation that we were in. And one thing I've always admired about you, and I've been vocal about this, is you race people like you expect to be raced, and that's hard every single lap. I go back to Bristol last Saturday night. Kyle Busch obviously was not very happy that you were racing him that hard, but I think maybe a casual fan just saw you racing the leader and you were a lap down, but there's a lot more layers to it than what you were trying to do there.
There's so many more layers, right? And that's the thing that's important for race car drivers, and it's hard to have anything but what's going on in your race to be important, right? I mean, it's easy to think, oh, they're racing for the lead, that's the most important thing. You know, even the cars that aren't in the playoffs right now are having a hell of a battle to finish 20th in points.
Right.
And that means a lot to their race team. Maybe there's bonuses from sponsors. Maybe it's a matter of them being re-signed to race again the next year. We got to be conscious of everyone's situation one way or another. And in that spot, for me, yes, we were moved on to the next round. That's great. But if we don't make it to the championship 4, all the points that we accumulate during the playoffs, those 10 races, can possibly help us finish 5th at best, right? Or 8th. So you can't afford to give up any points at any point. You got to always be going for it. And when in that situation, which is not a fun spot to be in, trust me, kind of like, you never want the leaders behind you race for the lead, and you're like, shoot, what do I do here? And then you just run your line and say, oh, go to the bottom, go for it. And if you can do it. And when I think about if I just let them go and the caution comes out, I'm giving up the opportunity to gain 5 or 6 spots ahead of me. And I'm also opening the opportunity up to lose 5 or 6 more spots of cars that were running behind me. So there's a possible 12-point swing there. Of what's going on there. So to me, yeah, you got to go racing. You got to race hard. You don't want to crash anyone. I don't accept being crashed, but I accept being raced hard because we're all out there doing that. And if I'm going to do that, I better be willing to accept being raced hard. And I do, but I'm also not going to crash somebody on purpose, at least. I'm not saying I haven't before. Mistakes happen, but I'm expected to race hard and be raced hard.
So changing gears a little bit on the personal side, the Logano household back in May became a 4-car team. Jameson was born. So he's what now, maybe 4 or 5 months old?
Yeah.
How about Hudson? I believe you got another little racer on your hand based on what I've seen you post on Twitter, because looks like to me the kid has no fear whatsoever.
It's funny. He has plenty of fear with some things, like jumping in the pool, no way, right? Not getting near the pool without like someone around, which is great, by the way. I don't want him to, but like even with the puddle jump around or whatever, he's not jumping in. Going to school without mom and dad there, don't like it. He hates it. Crying the whole time. It's funny, but you put him in this little Power Wheels thing. It is incredible, and of course, me being me. He gets a little comfortable. Let's make it a little faster. You put a bigger battery in it, right? And then next thing you know, you burn up the motors. We'll put bigger motors in it now. Let's strip the gears out. We got better gears now and go a little faster. This thing's going 15 miles an hour now. I can't keep up with them. And so we go to the cul-de-sacs in the neighborhood and we race around there, and he's crazy on it. And so last night, you'd laugh. Last night I had him out there, and he loves it. Like he'll run to the batteries are dead every time. So he comes up to me, stops, and goes, "Daddy, I'm done." I said, "Okay, well, we'll load it back up in the truck and drive home." He goes, "No, my drive home." So he said, "I'm like, you drive it home, so you can't go down the road, down this public road to get back home." And he started taking off, so I'm chasing him again. So I got to remember, he's still only 2.5 or so, to where his capabilities are decent, but all the logic isn't quite there yet.
Well, and you tinkering with it, the apple didn't roll too far from the tree, because we know that's exactly what Tom Logano, your dad, would be doing, is tinkering with it, trying to make it go faster and do all things better. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't really know the answer to this question, even though I've known you the majority of your life. When you were growing up and you were just getting into racing, who did you look up to? And then did you have a favorite Cup driver? And this comes from several questions from our fans. Did you have a favorite Cup driver that you actually pulled for?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I love the sport, right? And as soon as I got a go-kart from Santa Claus, I mean, that was the beginning of the end for me. Every day I got home, I just wanted to go drive. And at that point, I didn't watch NASCAR racing or anything like that. I loved cars, but I loved driving more than anything. like that was what I was drawn to, I enjoyed, I was good at, and that was me. And obviously, you know, when you're going to school, there's not many other race car drivers there, right? As kids playing hockey or football or, you know, soccer, whatever it may be. And I just loved driving. And so my parents recognized that. We got a quarter midget. I don't know if you can see the go-kart picture behind me. You can't really see it that well. But that's where it started. And I loved it. And, you know, as far as, you know, people that I, you know, look up to, you know, obviously once I started racing and started watching more NASCAR racing, you know, naturally Jeff Gordon was the youngest guy out there. I was a young racer. I thought that was really cool. And so I rooted for Jeff Gordon. I also liked Mark Martin. I don't really know why I chose Mark Martin at the time, but kind of ironic how eventually we end up, you know, crossing paths, and he really helped me out in my career and getting me to this level, which is just crazy to me, because you start watching someone when they're 6 years old, you know, when you're 6, and then next thing you know, you're out there racing with them. And the whole reason why you're out there is because he really endorsed me as a race car driver. It's just nuts. You know, I got a picture at home. It's one of my favorite pictures. I met Jeff Gordon at Loudon, New Hampshire when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I got a picture with him. And I have another picture of me standing next to him at driver intros, and I'm in my fire seat, his, and it's just kind of like a full circle. So now when kids come up to me and they say they're going to kick my butt someday, I think, oh,
It's
crazy.
Awesome. So this comes from a couple of our fans, Kevin Whitenack and then Steve Wares. They kind of have the same question. In these COVID-related scenarios that we've been dealt, things that we've been forced to do this year, whether it's one-day shows, no practice, double headers, midweek races, is there something, Joey, of those that we've been forced to do this year that you would embrace and you'd be fine even when we get back to normal, that we kept doing it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different things. You know, this pandemic has forced us into changing things that we would never, ever have done before. Think about going to the Daytona road course with no practice. No practice, go race. If you told me to do that in January, I'd say you're nuts. Never would we ever do that. And here we are. And we did it. And guess what? It was fine. Everyone did fine. It was okay. You know, so you're kind of pushed out of your comfort zone to learn kind of what you're capable of doing. And if there's a silver lining to this thing, that is definitely one of them. And it's done that for our whole sport. So, you know, I think the one-day shows are interesting. I'd like to have some practice back at some tracks, but I think there's opportunity there. I love the midweek racing. You know, maybe those are the races that you can just show up and race in a midweek race, and then maybe have 2-day shows on the weekends. I don't know. I've enjoyed spending more time with my family, though. I do know that. You know, one of the real tough parts about our sport, as you know, is being away from your kids and your wife, and missing all the, you know, the stuff as they grow up. And being an absentee father, like, it's not what I want to be. You know, so this really helps that work-life balance to where, you know, you can prolong your career even more because you're really not missing much.
Yeah. Yeah. So following up a little bit on changes, we know the 2021 schedule, it's not come out yet, but we do anticipate it's going to have a very different look to it. We already know we're going to the Nashville Super Speedway at some point. A lot of rumors this week about going to COTA down in Austin. So this actually comes from Alberta O as well as David G. Is there one track or maybe a city that you would like to see NASCAR with the Cup Series implement a race and a racetrack in the future?
It's a tough one because I like where we go, and I'm open to change, and I like new things. I always said it'd be super cool to race downtown Las Vegas. Like, how cool would that be to have a street course down the strip? You know, where people can be in their hotel rooms and watch cup cars go blowing by, you know, at 150 or whatever it is. Like, that would be really neat to race. And I say Vegas, but any city would be really cool. Like a city street course to really just bring in a different vibe. I think that'll really attract new fans as well. I mean, think about if you have an apartment complex or you know, you live in a condo or whatever in the city, and you can't not hear us come by, you know, you're going to be forced to watch us. And I think that's really attractive to me as a race fan and as a racer. I think that would be something really cool.
So Joey, on your Pennzoil Ford Mustang this weekend at Las Vegas, I hear you've got a really special name on the car, a true hero, and actually it sounds like she's been quite the inspiration to you.
Yeah, Kayla Foley is on the car this weekend. Her name is where my name typically is, and we replaced it with hers. And Kayla is a good friend of mine, and her husband Michael. We've been friends for a long time. And Kayla was recently diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, if I can say it right. And she's 7 rounds into chemo. She's stage 4. She's got 12 rounds total. And it's just crazy to me, like how normal her life was. She just got married. Life was going so great. And then, holy cow, got through this huge hurdle in front of her to try to leap over. And she's doing an amazing job. But as you can imagine, and I'm sure some people watching this right now have gone through something similar or know somebody that's gone through something similar one way or another, and realize how that impact that it makes on her life in particular, but even the people around them, to really put life into perspective sometimes, and how quickly things can change, right? And how we take things for granted, right? I mean, just like before COVID pandemic, right? We took so many things for granted. We took just going to dinner for granted. As you can imagine, coming down with cancer is that times 1,000. So to have her name on the car, we made a donation to her charity of choice under her name, and so proud to have it on there. So it's cool to have someone's name on the car that you have a great relationship with, right? It's always one of your friends' names on the car and you're taking it with you. That's pretty neat.
No, that's very neat. When I read what you had put on Twitter, I said, this is so cool. Maybe some of the fans are casual fans that's watching and listening right now. But we did have this question that actually came from Victor Santiago Jr. What do you think about the choose rule? We used it for the first time at the All-Star race at Bristol, and we started using it here a few weeks ago, where basically no matter where you're running, you can choose. Start on the inside, start on the outside. Do you like it?
I love it. I've been pushing this for years behind the scenes. Nobody knows it, but I've been pushing for years because I don't believe luck has a place in sports. I just don't. I don't like that. Anytime there's a luck type of situation, we should get rid of that, because the best should win. The best teams, the best drivers should be the ones that win. There should be no luck involved. And part of that situation, there was some luck. Where you came off pit road, a lot of times if you're 3rd or 5th, you'd rather be 6th or 4th. So what you saw people doing is checking up at the end of pit road, trying to let a car go so you can be in the right lane for the restart. Yeah. What are we doing, right? Like that's stupid. We shouldn't be doing that. So this is the way that, hey, if you have the advantage off of pit road and you're 3rd, well, you can decide whether you want to start on the outside or the inside. What, you want to take the gamble and try to go to the bottom and hopefully have a good push on a restart and make it happen? Hey, God bless you. Go for it. And it's different at each track. It's added so much strategy to it. And I don't think everyone's even really wrapped their head around what goes into those decisions, because it's not that simple. It's not that easy. On saying, well, is the bottom lane worth maybe 2 rows? Is it worth taking 2 rows advantage that you may lose one and you end up ahead? It also depends on who took the row in front of you, right? Like, is that car in front of you a car that fires off fast, or is it one that's a little sluggish to start? What's the tire situation of the cars around you? By the way, you got to make this decision like that, because you're up to the cone and you got to pick one or the other. So there's a lot of prep work that goes into it, a lot of thought that goes into it. I don't think we have it scienced out quite yet on what's the best on each racetrack, but it's fun, and it definitely has thrown a new twist to restarts in general. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, one thing I like, it's stop the car counting on pit road, because I'm telling you, we were flirting with destroying some cars on pit road with people stopping and going and all that. So I like that. Final question, Joey. You won at Las Vegas in the Pennzoil 400 back in February. That was race number 2. I think people may say, oh gosh, just bring that same car back and you'll go to victory lane this time. There's a lot changes in 8 months when you go to race number 2 to race number 30, especially with just the competition alone.
Yeah, and all our cars are built the same. So, honestly, I don't even know what car I'm driving this week. They're all the same.
Pennzoil Ford.
It's a Pennzoil Mustang. I know that. That I know. But as far as chassis number and all that, it doesn't matter. Our Penske does a great job of building the cars all the same. It's not like you have a car. It's like, this is a good car. We're just going to keep bringing this one back over and over and over again. It's not like that anymore these days. The way that these teams can build cars consistently, and that's why you see us be able to race without practice. We're able to get our heights pretty close without practice because the cars are built the same. So you can go off of your notes a lot of times. So the setup changes some. Obviously, you talked about track temp. There's some interesting things there. Trim levels as far as downforce versus drag. There's some real discussions on what's best there, whether it's the beginning of the race or when the sun goes down and that track temp comes down a lot. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs and not sure, questions that we're not going to have answers to until the race gets going or until after the race. So, I think we have a good baseline place to start, but we're going to have to be ready to adjust on our car a lot during the race.
Well, it'd be a great place to get that third win. And as you pointed out earlier, not have to worry about Talladega and Charlotte Roval. You can just play with house monies. But good luck on Sunday. Good luck in these playoffs. And good luck, Joey, on this second Cup Series championship. So that's going to wrap it up here with the Virtual Fan Zone, Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We appreciate all the fans that joined us. We know you want to get back to the racetrack. We want you back at the racetrack, just like Joey said. But if we'll just pull together, work together, and do what people are asking us to do, we'll be back sooner than later. You have a great weekend. Enjoy the race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway.